Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to do lesson 9.4, which is relating fractions, decimals, and money. So let's get started with our problem. It says, today Julie and Sarah have $1 in quarters. They have to share the quarters equally. How many quarters should each girl get? And how much money is this? Okay, this might seem like kind of an easy problem, but it's just a good place for us to start. And so let's take a look over here and remember that a dollar is 100 cents, a quarter is 25 cents, a dime is 10 cents, and a penny is 1 cent. Okay, we don't want to forget that. Let's go back to looking at the model. And here we have that 4 quarters equals $1. And this is how I'm going to write that in money notation, right? This is how I indicate that we're talking about dollars and not just the number 1. I have to put this little dollar sign in front of my 1 in the ones place. And of course, here we have quarters, and let's take a look at how this is written in money notation. There's our dollar sign, nothing in the ones place, there's our decimal point, and 25, meaning 25 out of 100, 25 hundredths. But this is how we write it in money notation. So we have 25 cents, 25 cents, 25 cents, and 25 cents. 4 quarters are in a dollar. A little bit more information to relate it to fractions is that we can say that 1 quarter is 25 hundredths, or 1/4 of a dollar. 2 quarters are 50 hundredths, or 2/4, which can be reduced to 1/2 of a dollar. 1/2 of a dollar can be represented by 50 cents, written this way, again, dollar sign, 0 in the ones place, decimal point, 50. Or you can say 50 cents. So we're going to circle the number of quarters that each girl should get. Well, there's 2 of them, and there are 4 quarters altogether. So each girl is going to get 2. This is going to be what Julie gets, and this is going to be what Sarah gets. Okay, so each girl gets 2 quarters, or now we're going to write this in money notation. They've given us this dollar sign already, right? So we're going to say they're not getting any whole dollars. Here's my decimal point. And I have to take my money notation out to 2 places to the right of the decimal. I can't write money without the 2 places being represented. Okay, we'll keep that in mind as we do this. Let's go down the page. Use money to model decimals. So we have $1. This is what our dollar looks like. If we're looking at a model, it would be the entire box filled in. This is all shaded in if you can't see that. And so here's our $1 written with the dollar notation, a 1 in the ones place, a decimal point, and it has to have these 2 zeros to the right of the decimal. Whoopsie, I noticed that it's not moved down far enough. And so, well, how many cents is that? That is 100 cents, right? Okay, let's try the dimes. So we know there are 10 dimes and $1. Here are our 10 dimes. And by the way, the front of the dime, the back of the dime. If you're not familiar with what money looks like up close and personal, ask mom or dad to empty their pockets or to show you some change, and then you can start to look at those more closely and identify the difference between the look of a dime and a penny and a quarter and a nickel. If we're looking at a model, 1 dime would all be shaded in. So 1 dime equals 1/10, written as a fraction, or we know it like this, 1/10 written, and this is of a dollar. So I'm going to have this is going to be 10 hundredths, right? So 10 dimes, I might have misspoken before. Each one of these would be a penny, by the way, and going all the way down would give us 10. This is going to be written as 0 with the 10 hundredths there, or 10 cents. Let's look at this one. Okay, so 100 pennies equals $1. 1 penny would be on our chart like this. 1 penny is 1/100th as a fraction, or a 1 in the hundredths place as a decimal, or in money, we've got the dollar sign, a 0 in the ones place, our decimal point, a 0 in the tens place, and a 1 in the hundredths place. All right, let me flip this over. And let's look now at place value. It says, think of dollars as ones, dimes as tenths, and pennies as hundredths. So if we're going to represent on a place value chart, or on this money notation type of chart, we have $1.56. That means there's $1. There's our decimal point. 5 dimes and 6 pennies. So this is the tenths place, and that's why we can think of dimes as tenths, right? The dimes are the tenths place. Think $1.56 equals $1.56, right? We can see these, if they were all pennies, there would be 56 of them. There are 100 pennies in a dollar, so $1.56 equals 156 pennies. And if we are looking at a place value chart, so it says 1 56/100ths of a dollar looks like 1 in the ones place, our decimal point, 5 in the tenths place, and a 6 in the hundredths place. There are 100 hundredths in 1. So in 1 56/100ths, there are 156 hundredths. Let's look at another example. Shade the decimal model to show the money amount. Then write the money amount and a fraction in terms of dollars. Okay, so first we're going to add up our money. And this is something that, again, if you aren't used to doing that, have some fun. Ask mom and dad to pour out some change, or maybe you have a little bowl in your house with a bunch of change. Pour it out and play around with it and count out some money. Okay, so this is a nickel. This is the back of a nickel. So we have 10, 15, 21. So we're going to shade in 21. So this is 20, or that is 10, by the way. This is 20. Here's 21. That's how that would be represented. So 21 over 100 would be our fraction. And if we're writing this in terms of dollars, so we're asked to be writing this in terms of dollars, we have to put the dollar sign. There are no ones. We put our decimal point, and then we say 21. It's like 21 cents right there. And here we go. Let's look at this one. So now we have a full dollar, and let's count out the change. This is a quarter. 25, these are dimes. So 25, 35, 45, 46. So $1.46 would be this entire box shaded in for our one whole dollar. And then we'll do 46. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 40, 46. There we go, 46. So $1.46 is the same as having, now look at this in decimals, 1 and 46 hundredths. Awesome. Let's see if we can fill in this chart together. This is kind of an interesting chart too. It says complete the table to show how money, fractions, mixed numbers, and decimals are related. So it's all of this together. Okay, so before I ever begin one of these charts, I just kind of take the whole big picture. This is asking for words. This is asking for bills and coins. This is asking for a money notation for me to write it so that it looks like money. It has to have the dollar sign. This column is asking for fractions or mixed numbers. And then this column is asking for the decimal number. Okay? And we're going to just get started. So we have to take the clues that they're giving us. So this is like a 3 in the, not like, this is exactly a 3 in the hundredths place. So one of the first things that I can do that my brain wants to jump to is, well, I know how to write that as a fraction. It's 3 over 100. Now I need to say, well, what bills or coins would that represent? Well, the hundredths place is like the pennies place. So this is going to be 3 pennies. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So this is 25 cents. So here's my fraction, 25 over 100, or now they've reduced it to 1/4, which we know we can do. Well, 25 over 100, I know how to write that in a decimal, nothing in the ones place, 25 hundredths. And so I know if I go back to my coins and my bills and coins column, I know that that's going to be 1/4. Okay, the next one they give us, this column, 2 quarters, 1 dime. Let's see, 2 quarters would be 50 cents, 1 dime would make it 60 cents. This is how I'm going to write it as money. I must have the dollar sign. There are no dollars, and there's 60 cents. They give us the fraction, 60 over 100, or 6/10. They both work for the fraction. And for the decimal, I'm going to do 0 and 60 hundredths. Okay. 2 $1 bills and 5 nickels. Let me make sure you can see this. Sorry if it was a little off the page. 2 $1 bills and 5 nickels. So that means I have 2 whole dollars and 5 nickels. Well, a nickel is worth 5, so 5 times 5 is going to get me to 25 cents. So now I have to write this as a mixed number, 2 and 25 over 100. Some of you might write this as 2 and 1/4. That would be okay also. And then let's write it as a decimal, 2 and 25 hundredths. So now what I really want you guys to do is zero in on these 2 columns, the money amount and the decimal amount. Look at these closely and compare them. The only difference between the money amount and the decimal amount is the dollar sign. This is a notation that we're talking about money. Here's our dollar sign. Here's the decimal, same number without the dollar sign. Dollar sign on the money amount, no dollar sign on the decimal amount. The dollar sign on this money amount, no dollar sign on this decimal amount. So watch that. You're going to think, well, why do I have to write that again? But one is showing it as a decimal and one is showing it as money. Two very distinct things there that we want to zero in on. Okay, let's try this. In the share and show, I know it gets a little awkward sometimes. It says, write the amount of money as a decimal in terms of dollars. Well, if they want in terms of dollars, I have to have a dollar sign, right? So this is 5 pennies. There's all the pennies right there, 5 pennies. How do I write that in terms of dollars? No ones, no dimes, 5 pennies. Okay. So I'm going to scoot down the page a little bit right here and zero in on this one. And again, practice counting some change. It's really an important skill. As a 4th grader, you want to really get solid with that because pretty soon you'll start paying for things with your own money, hopefully. Okay, so here we go. 25 cents, and then we have 2 dimes, and then we have 3 nickels. So when I add up money, I always start with the big coin first, and then I work my way down to the smaller amount. So 25, 35, 45, 50, 55, 60. So I have 60 cents. So I'm going to write this as 60 cents first. I have to have the dollar sign. And then I'm going to write it as a decimal, which is the same number without the dollar sign. And now I'm going to write it as a fraction, 60 over 100, right? So the first one I did here must have the dollar sign. It's the only difference between how I wrote it the first time and how I wrote it here. This says 60 cents. This is 60 hundredths. And so is this fraction, 60 hundredths. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. Maybe not. Maybe I'm going to give you guys a couple more here. Let's just do a few more. Let's do this one here. Let's do 7 hundredths. And the directions say write as a money amount and as a decimal. So they gave us the fraction already, so I only have 2 answers here to put in. Okay, so 7 hundredths. Well, 7 hundredths, I can just write that as it sounds, 7 hundredths. And in terms of money, that's like having 7 pennies. So let me just write it down here so it's a little bigger. So dollar sign, a 0 in my dollar place value, no dimes, 7 pennies. Okay, let's do 16 hundredths. So they gave us the fraction. We want to do just a decimal, 16 hundredths. In terms of money, the only difference is a dollar sign and 16 cents. And then we'll do this last one, 53 hundredths are giving us the fraction. We're going to do the decimal, and now we're going to do the money notation. All right, you guys rock at this. You rock. Okay, bye.